everyone, and welcome to Retro Encounter, RPG fans' bi-weekly podcast of many topics, mostly of the retro variety. I'm Aleks Franiczek, once again subbing in for Zach as we come to part 2 of our discussion of Final Fantasy VIII. The best Final Fantasy? The worst Final Fantasy? Some more reasonable, boring middle ground? Only our panel of experts can decide. And speaking of which, joining me once again are my panelists, Steph Sybydlo.
I am the sorceress Sybydlo in this one. I am also here with my
My
sharpened
apologies.
claws.
Rob White,
Hello.
Paul Skevington.
Hi.
Paul's not very excited this time.
Hi.
And Ben Love.
Well, it's not the worst Final Fantasy because 16 exists, but it is
Oh
lower
my
on my
God.
list.
Take that, Zach.
Gasp.
Yeah, so in the time since our last recording, something pretty crazy happened. Right, guys? We all found out that we grew up in an orphanage together, but lost our memories as soon as we started junctioning our girlfriends.
We all
And
moved to different parts. Only one of us is from America.
Yep. My girlfriend's Canadian though. That she goes to another school. That's why you guys haven't met her. You know.
The plot twists keep coming. All right, so listeners, if you played Final Fantasy VIII before, you probably get the reference. If not, this is really just scratching the surface of the level of nonsense we're about to get into, and I mean that in an endearing way, but also with a bit of criticism, because man, does this game love to throw plot twists at you in the second
The
half.
mercenary school takes you to space.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
space. I mean, like it feels like the developers were just like, "Oh, we want this like kind of sequence set piece. How do we get
Yeah.
there? Just
Yeah.
come up with something."
Yeah.
I can totally
And
see that.
and honestly, I still do really love this game. Even with that kind of criticism in mind, because I just like love the vibes the game manages, like with all these different set pieces it tries to construct. Kind of like the creative things with its presentation it does there. We kind of got into that a bit in the first half, but that definitely continues on in the other discs.
No, and
Um,
like I said, like I've totally become like one of the FF8 cult following people. Like I actually do think it is worth all the buzz it gets. Yeah, we got even like impressive numbers for the first podcast, which is really cool. A lot of people seem to just gel with it a different way than the other Final Fantasies.
yeah,
So it's actually really cool to talk about it with people. Some just won't, care about it at all. They're like, no, whatever, it was fine. But like some people are like, I play this game like every few years and it's still one of my favorites, and I get it. It's just really cool. Those set pieces are really interesting, even if they are kind of crazy. The game's just so pretty to look at.
Yeah, there's just
Um,
something kind of special going on with like the way it leverages its presentation and just like the weird kind of surreal vibes it manages. So I guess I want to start off just everybody talking about what they overall got out of this playthrough. I know most of you played it before, but Ben, this is your first time, so just anybody can chime in with how have your opinions like shifted or been reinforced from last episode or from previous playthroughs for that matter.
Yeah, I'll start. I think my opinion is basically the same as it was last time. If anything, it's just like kind of reinforced that even more. I think this game is like not really interested in like telling a cohesive narrative. It's just
No.
I don't think so either.
it's very much just like throw things at the wall, introduce you to like another set piece, and like there are some like cool and memorable set pieces. But I think there if I kind of feel like if the core relationship between Renault and Squall wasn't as strong as it is, then this whole game would fall apart. But I do think that core idea keeps you invested through all the kind of crazy things that happen that are kind of disconnected and don't really feel cohesive. That is
You
kind
can
of
at
the
least
through
hang
line.
on to them.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
That's true.
And then Triple Triad is great. I love Triple Triad. To me, it's like the real battle system is Triple Triad.
Okay, so hear me out. Pillars of Eternity just updated with the whole turn-based edition. What if they made FF8 Triple Triad edition and you just like do card combat?
Yeah. Well, there is. I think I posted in
Could I
in our
interest you with
little
that?
Discord chat about this. There's a game on itch that's like just Triple Triad, like a whole RPG where everything's Triple Triad, which is kind of cool.
Is the one in 14 taken pretty straight from it, or do they like adapt it differently?
I have no idea. I don't play 14, so that's the question for somebody else.
Yeah, I've only played a little bit of Triple Triad in 14, and it was quite a bit after my last playthrough of 8, so I'm not sure, but like it felt the same, but there were like just way more cards, I remember, because they make cards out of like stuff from all the other FFs as well.
Mhm.
But anybody else, like Rob, I know you've played this game many times already, and you consider it your favorite Final Fantasy. So did you notice anything new this playthrough? Anything else kind of stand out? Any opinion shift?
I mean, I feel like I always notice different things or have like new thoughts about certain scenarios every time I play it, which I guess kind of comes from the fact that the story is so crazy. I mean, yesterday when I was playing through some of the space parts of disc 3, I was literally playing it through thinking, I wonder what Ben is going to think of some of of some of what is going on now. But
Isn't
no,
it nice to be part of someone else's thoughts, Ben?
Just
No
'cause
wonder
I think-
I was sneezing so much yesterday. I was like, oh, what is going on?
I think I don't know. I think my opinion has not changed. I still really love the game, but I think I think part of what I like about it is how it's like the totally like wild and bonkers story. I think it doesn't always make a whole lot of sense, and I think like the more times you play it, the more stuff you notice. But I love that the whole thing is delivered with like confidence, and the game feels very like
It's the 8th Final Fantasy. I'd hope so.
yeah. I mean, it just feels like it's like this is what it's doing, and I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to do it well, and you know that's that.
The whole like art design of it, I was like totally taken in with this like fantastic balance of like mystical, magical, military, and metropolitan imagery.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's so crazy to see these 4 things really just kind of rammed up against each other. Sometimes like together, like the deep sea dungeon has like a magical ruin underneath like a big sci-fi dome.
I
And I
also
just thought
love
it was
the
so cool.
the contrast between like disc 3 and 4 is kind of similar as well, because it's like disc 3 is like super science fiction.
Yeah.
You're like going into space
Completely,
and all
yeah.
that sort of stuff, and then you get to disc 4 and suddenly you're in this like fantasy gothic, quite kind of scary
Yeah.
final dungeon, which looks really cool.
It almost
Yeah.
has like a dreamlike
Yeah,
quality to
Ultimisia's
it.
got
You
It
know,
does,
like
yeah.
when you're in
Yeah.
a
She does, but also I like it. It's really creepy, which I think is something that you've not really gotten very much of in the rest of the game. I don't think so. I really enjoy that contrast. Also, I would really like to shout out, just because I don't think we spoke about it in the first episode, the music in this game is
Oh,
so
yeah.
good. I think this is like easily a top tier Final Fantasy soundtrack.
Yeah.
I think it has a lot of influence on the soundtracks that came after it. I think this is the first game that also has like a vocal track in the game.
Yeah, Eyes on Me. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
I don't think there's one in any of the games before.
No.
So you're saying
Yeah.
Simple and
That's
Clean
pretty sure.
exists because of Final Fantasy VIII?
Obviously.
Yeah, maybe.
Have you seen like that one YouTube video for Eyes on Me? It's got like 50 million views. Like it is a genuinely popular song.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
I mean,
good.
it's
divorced from the
good.
game.
I love
It's
it.
sung by Faye Wong, who's
Oh,
like a
okay.
famous Hong
Huge,
Kong
yeah.
pop diva. And it won like kind of like legit like music show awards.
That's
Like not just for
awesome.
like video game music, but just like
Mm.
for being like a great song. And
Yeah.
it rips.
Square at the height of their hubris when they saw that happen and they were like, "Oh, we can make a Hollywood film."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they could make one. They did.
They did.
Yeah,
It's true.
it does-
They
it
did
does
make
exist.
one.
I think the scene where that track is used in the game is really nice as well on the Ragnarok, but we'll talk about that in a bit. But also the the like general sound design, I think, is really good. Like the sound of like explosions and like the summons, especially ones like Quetzalcoatl. Like every time I summon, I just find it so like satisfying to listen to. It's really
I like
cool.
the Dance of the Balamfish played in space. You know, they give you like the space waltz music. I think that was really cute.
Yeah, the aesthetics of this game are just like
they're off the hook.
Incredible. Yeah, just
especially
the
after
FMV
7,
and...
which did great, but like this one's just completely in its own like art design head.
Yeah, it's like Square at the height of their powers, right? Like I think in that PS1 era where they had, and I mean, I don't know, I guess I would say like maybe Parasite Eve kind of is in conversation with this game as well, but or even like Racing Lagoon, but those games are a lot more grounded, and this is just like crazy, you know. It's not trying to, those are them trying to like use this style to create a world that's like similar to our own, and then this game is just like, what, we can just do anything.
I really appreciate.
I said before it did.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said no. That's fine. I just said before, you know, it did at the time. It did absolutely blow me away. And playing it this time, certain things sort of struck me, like again those animated sequences that are so awesome,
good.
and the fact that you can move around during them as well. And you'd never get that nowadays because you would just render everything. So there's a kind of weird magic about like this film playing around you while you still have control to a certain degree. I know it's kind of, you know, really not really doing anything, but it's still really magical.
Yeah, for that exact thing you're talking about, Paul, like I think the best showcase of that is when you're like Balam Garden's about to fight Galbadia Garden, and you're doing that like fight against a soldier as Squall and like in the middle of the air, and then you pick up Renoa, you descend down onto like a battlefield where like tons of like soldiers are like doing war against each other in like a cinematic, but with Squall and Renoa you kind of like run through the battlefield. And that was just like so smoothly done and like so epic feeling, like really cinematic.
It's like that scene in Attack of the Clones where all the Jedis go into that arena, except not lame, except it's really good.
I really like the idea of this like romance-centered Final Fantasy uses like a very fairy tale concept like witches. You know, so I think it was a really cool blend of a very sci-fi, almost fairy tale kind of vibe in this, you know, and so between some of the visuals, you know, these kind of very down to earth and like cozy visuals, like I called it Wind Hill forever, but it's just Windhill or something.
Wind Hill, yeah.
Well, I guess,
anyway.
you're saying stuff like the fact that they're all from like the orphanage, like that's also kind of a fairy tale type trope, right? Like, you know,
except now you're fighting them in space, so it just kind of a very interesting way to marry the kind of two worlds together. I think it's very, very interesting.
Yeah, and the music does a good job supporting all of that. Like you have like kind of military kind of march style songs, then like towns like Balam, Windhill have very kind of like subdued, relaxing atmospheres. Esthar and like all that sci-fi stuff in Disc 3 just goes like kind of bonkers with the electronic elements. Like the music supports the world building really well, even if the world building is kind of just nonsense. I feel like the music helps you buy into it at least a little bit more.
You can do a lot with like music and visuals to like create a sense of place and a theme and a mood, and this game is just really incredible at doing that. The problem is like once you're like in the narrative and you're like actually interacting with it kind of like there's not really more to it than that, but like just creating the set dressing, it's like very good at that, right?
I think we're mentioning Eyes on Me as well, and talking about music supporting it thematically. The fact that Eyes on Me crops up so many times throughout the game and in so many different time periods as well.
Roses and wine.
Yeah, exactly. It's linking it all together. So, and to talk about, you know, Steph's point, the mixing of medieval and science fiction. I don't know how much I've said before, but yes, 7 and this set kind of solidified in my mind what Final Fantasy actually was. Something I've had to kind of educate myself out of afterwards, since going back. because which is why, as I said, why I bounced off 9 so much. I kind of liked to see that come back again. I think when this came out in the 90s was kind of the high point of what you call in the literary community slipstream fiction, sort of the mixture of fantasy and science fiction and sort of anything goes kind of attitude. I would say points to books like Perdido Street Station by China Miéville, things like that. And this kind of epitomizes that. As you say, the story can feel to some like it's all over the place, but that kind of narrative freedom at the time, it feels like this was what 8 was experimenting with to some degree.
Honestly,
whether or not how successful you think,
I agree with that, Paul. And I brought up Final Spirits Within it like jokingly earlier, but I do think like I could see how after they made this game, they were convinced they could make a film and have it be successful because there is so much that they do here that like works in the language of film. And like a film can be carried by really good visuals and music and just that kind of spectacle, even if like the writing or the narrative and thematic content isn't super strong. And this, I can see how they really thought like, oh, if we can do this, we can do a film. And I mean, they were wrong, but I get it. And there's really something to be said for how much they nail that kind of expression, visual and auditory expression in this game.
Well, part of what also made Spirits Within really not work is that it kind of like abandoned these kind of more surreal, like offbeat elements that like a game like FF8 had in favor of kind of like more traditional Western cinematic kind of vibes. And so I think that's a big reason why like that kind of presentation works so well here, and like what they did with Spirits Within just didn't really land for anyone.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Aleks. You're right. They didn't lean hard enough into that, right? Yeah. Like just the kind of unreality and like dreamlike quality that this game has.
This sort of reminds me, I need a return to like some of, like, not for everything, I guess they won't do that anymore, but fixed camera angles. Like I 100% feel like the whole fixed camera like idea of the whole PS1, like that's how they did the games, actually contributed to that kind of artistry in terms of like what the scope of what they want to show and how they present it. I think that's like such a big important part of it all. You know, like the scenes where they kind of go in close up, you know, where you have Squall and Renault on the front in the seats of the Ragnarok, but usually, you know, they take from the back. You know, so it's just kind of interesting the way they want to frame certain places, certain shots, and it's very effective in its own right. So it's almost like movie framing a scene.
I totally agree with that. It leads them a lot more sort of directorial control when they were able to do that.
Yeah, otherwise it's just kind of putting a camera where you want, and they're not going to design with that whole 360 roundabout in mind. So when you have just that one specific shot that they want to show you, you know, I think it's much more effective. And the backgrounds in this game are just absolutely fantastic. The CG backgrounds. It's such a shame they didn't do any job properly upscaling them, but they're beautiful.
I really noticed that as well especially when you know, when you're escaping the lunar base in the pod and Alone is sending Squall back to like other periods of time. Some of those scenes were really like unusually framed, and there's the one with Zell and Renault are talking to other where you're like watching it through a wine glass or something. And I just remember thinking at the time, like, this is such a like interestingly composed screen that I'm seeing here. Like it really gives it that kind of dreamy, very like beautiful like composition as like a whole image that you're seeing.
I mean, like, speaking of the lunar base in particular, like on this point, like I feel like the combination of like kind of like the waltz music that they play there, like as a reference back to like the dance scene from earlier, and like the weird like crooked camera angle rotations they do, I feel like that's like a clear reference to 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and like even when like kind of Renoa gets possessed, it's like she's like the HAL 9000 of the how many scene, and like everything descends into horror. Like it really, I'm just like, man, this is like playing out a lot like 2001.
How many times did everyone bounce off of her? Yeah. I was like, can I stop now? I was about 20 times. Yeah.
But yeah, like aside from just like kind of story stuff, which we'll get into more detail in a sec, I also like we talked about a bit in the first episode, but like this game really does get away from the traditional like JRPG structure of like town, dungeon, kind of overworld.
I was gonna talk about that. Yes, go.
Yeah, and I feel like that like ends up supporting like kind of the unconventional leveling system really well.
Yeah.
Because like you basically can like turn off random encounters for most of this game without much consequence. And like I think that the designers even knew that, because you get Diablos, one of the GFs, like very early on. He can learn an ability that turns off random encounters entirely. So like even without the quality of life feature of the remaster, like you can very viably do that like within the first quarter of the game.
I was
and
thrilled
then like
the magic lamp item says you should save before you use it.
yeah it is a pretty tough fight at that time. But yeah, it's like the leveling progression and like the storytelling end up like complementing really well, where like you really have like you're like carried like naturally through these different set pieces that designers and writers want you to go through. And you can also just kind of like ignore battles at your convenience. It's a really interesting kind of combination that I think works because those two parts support each other essentially.
Yeah, Alex, I agree. Like, I think you're like right, like what you're saying, that it is a way for them to like prevent the battle system from them, or the mechanics from getting in the way of like the pacing of the narrative and how it's laid out. Unfortunately, I think that the way they do that is just obviating it entirely. And so it's like, to me, it's like, well, why even have the system if you're not meant to really engage with it and like build upon that system in a really interesting and novel way? Like, I think it's like, oh well, we'll just give you a way to just like completely ignore this entire part of the mechanics and service of the story. And to me, that's like one of the things I don't like about this game, is that it isn't requiring you to really engage with the battle system in the way that I would prefer, I guess. But it does fit the pacing, I think, and that I think maybe was a higher priority for them than like having this like really intricate battle system that is engaging on its own without, bringing in like the narrative or the set pieces and all that.
Yeah, and like I definitely like get what you're saying, but I'll say like the one like positive I still see from that is that like there are just so many ways that you can approach the battle system. Like the game just like kind of like gives you a bunch of tools. It gives you all these like abilities you can learn from GFs that can or not necessarily have to be useful. You can kind of draw at your own pace to like level up your characters as you want. And so it's just like it's not like carefully balanced, but it is just like here's all this stuff, come up with your own way of playing this game. Like for example, like one way you could play this game is just like always teeter on the edge of like low health and just exploit limit breaks, which are super powerful in this game, because unlike like FF7 and FF9, limit breaks aren't just like these things you have to wait for and that like suddenly come up in a battle like as a convenience. Like you can actually game the system to like try to like do as many limit breaks as possible. So I think like that, with the combination of just like how free form drawing is and like how much customization there is with like GFs, like it's not like a super well balanced game or anything, but there's still like fun to be had, at least I found.
Yeah, I agree. I think they wanted to like make this game appeal to as many people as possible specifically in terms of like the battle system and how you want to play it. So people that don't want to play it have the option of completely removing that from most of the game by using the skill that Diablos has. You can, if you want to make your characters very specialized, you can make your characters all this like function very similarly to each other, I think. And then also you've got like the level scaling, so you can make the game very difficult by spending ages grinding so the enemies get a lot tougher. I feel like it's just trying to give you as many options as possible, and then it's up to you how you engage with those and what you choose to engage with.
Yeah, the
the fact you've got
downside of
these
that.
limited.
Oh, go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
That's all right. No, it's fine. I was just going to say the fact that you've got these limited slots for the actions that wouldn't just appear normally in a menu, in any other game without a thought, is sort of emphasizes that at that point that you've just made about the customization and the play your way style to it. And I think that it's very symbolic of that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure if we're going to talk about this in more detail, but in terms of my how I've kind of built my characters, so I usually use the like bonus skills that give you extra stats when you level up your characters. So I usually use the strength bonus on Squall, and then Quistis, Irvine, and Zell share the HP and vitality bonus between the three of them. And then Renoa and Selfie get magic bonus. So I do kind of build my characters to have sort of specializations. And also that helps to like keep all the GF junctioning organized, which I enjoy. So
yeah, I think that everything you guys are saying is correct. Like, you have a wide degree of freedom and variety in like how you choose to engage with the system. I think my problem with that is that there's not really any like carefully like crafted challenges that require mastery of the system in any particular way. And so you do have that freedom, but the drawback of that freedom is that it's not presenting you with these like obstacles or challenges where you kind of have to prove that you've learned everything, about the system to overcome them. And I think that's something that I look for in games, and this game just doesn't have it, which is fine. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to have it, right? But I do think that, though, that Triple Triad kind of does give you that. And so that, in that sense, I think that's why that part of the game appealed to me more, because Triple Triad is building upon the foundation of its mechanics, and then you go to new areas, and then they add new rules to Triple Triad, which is really interesting, like that you can't see the enemy's hand, or that they add the elemental like tiles or variables into the field. And so that I found to be really engaging, because it is building not just on your set of cards that when you engage with the system, you get new cards, and that opens up your options, but also like building upon the actual rule set to make it more challenging and more interesting as you go along. So I didn't get that from the regular battle system, but I did get that from Triple Triad. So I will give it credit in that sense.
Whole even planet shuffle and boogies.
Yes. Even the card game, though, you can I spent a lot of this playthrough abolishing random from pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, I hate random.
I hate that rule. So I haven't engaged with any card games that have used random. So even that you can like completely adapt to however you want to play it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we were talking about this a little bit before recording, but part of like the power gaming meta here is like you can just break the game using Triple Triad and the card mod ability, which you can learn super early to gain early access to like weapon upgrades. Like you can get Squall's best weapon in Disc 1 if you really try, and like a bunch of high level magic that you can just junction and like become overpowered with. So like you can if you prefer Triple Triad to the combat system, you can kind of substitute it for one or the other, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, it is really cool. And it's really cool too that they developed this entire like card combat system in a traditional RPG. I mean, there were a couple games that had kind of had that idea already, like I believe like the Pokemon TCG RPG on the Game Boy had already come out at this point, but it is a very like unique idea, and certainly a game of this caliber had not really done that. Like what is for the time like a AAA production, putting like an entire playable card game that exists throughout the entire length of the story that you can just engage with at your will. Like that is a super crazy idea.
And then lightning did not strike twice in FF9.
No, I was going to say, and they went in with the best one. It's like the best card game as well. It's like the first one's about the one in 9 is horrendous.
Yeah,
have you guys?
Oh God,
has anyone here played? Do you guys know? Oh man, now I was about to bring it up, and now I just what it's called. It was on the PS3. Eye of Judgment. Have you guys ever heard of Eye of Judgment?
Oh yeah.
No.
Yeah,
So it
the
was a
iToy or whatever.
Yes, it used the
Yeah.
camera for the PS3. It was an early PS3 exclusive, and it was like an actual card game, like with physical cards, and you put them down in front of the camera, and then on the TV, the monster would like come out of the card. But that card game is like heavily based on Triple Triad. Like it has the same 3x3 grid, and it's a little more in depth than Triple Triad is. But I played, Eye of Judgment, and there's a PSP version that is like a single player RPG using the Triple Triad or using the Eye of Judgment rules and card game. And then so playing this, I was like, oh, like this is where that came from. Like they totally just like developed that idea, Triple Triad further. So it did kind of live on in other games, and it was very influential. I mean, I think any card game RPG that exists now takes a lot from this game. And that's kind of
You see
cool.
it in Queen's Blood a bit too, right?
Yeah, is that the Final Fantasy XIV one?
Yeah,
no,
sorry,
that's the
Rebirth.
7 Rebirth one.
Oh, the 7 Rebirth. Oh, yeah,
It's really
that one
good.
sort of like
Yeah.
kicked off and got really popular for a good minute.
And I mean Gwent in Witcher 3, obviously.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
which
it's
is
crazy. It is influential. You're right.
Gwent is also kind of, I wonder if they took from that, because it is a very different, like in its construction and everything, but it is kind of about holding a board, right?
Yeah.
And like playing cards in sequence to hold a board, which is different than a lot of like traditional tabletop TCGs. But yeah, I do think Triple Triad is very influential for like digital video game based TCGs.
Maybe just for setting the expectation that you might find one within the RPG, just on a really basic level.
And that people might enjoy it more than the actual game.
Yeah.
Shrug. What are you gonna do about it? That's really cool though. I did not feel anything for the Chocobo raising stuff this time around. I was like, nah.
Oh my god, the Chocobo's forest side quest is pretty brutal.
I was like, I'm not doing this. I did do the Odin one though, and I just wanted to brag about that cool castle that he's in, that like diamond helix dungeon thingy with the like cool magical staircase. I was like just like acting like a kid. My jaw was kind of hanging open there. I was like, wow.
Yeah. It's very pretty. It's very pretty.
Like,
he's got some good lighting effects going on.
The really giant moon too, and like a whole bunch of shots is like one of my favorite things. And then there's like monsters on the moon. Like, sorry, just to go back to the story that just perplexed me. I was like, oh my god, there's like this nasty monster thing on the moon, sludge on the moon that like throws up on the planet from time to time.
They call it what, Lunar Cry?
Yeah, I was like,
which is badass. That's a crazy
it's
name.
It's a good name, man.
I was like, that's why this is a military school planet, because the monsters be coming from the moon.
I just felt sorry for the little tiny red dots that were separating from the mainstream. I was like, oh, that was your chance to go to the planet, and you missed it. You're hurting off into space.
Yeah. Oh, and I don't know if we talked about the orphanage twist yet.
We should.
But yeah, so I was already not really into the whole seed thing and like the mercenary school. So even though that is like, I do think the orphanage thing kind of feels like a total like comes out of nowhere, like what the hell is this? But I do think that like, to me, it actually makes more like thematic sense for the characters to have this connection to each other than this stupid like mercenary school setup. Yeah. So I did actually like that it's like, oh, there's actually a deeper kind of like relationship reason why they're all together in this environment, rather than just, oh, isn't it cool to like have these kids be like weapons or whatever, kind of setup.
So I did two main things about that. One is I think they could have done more to prime it, like having only Irving know it and not really drop that many clues, like, oh hey, it's you. It just like nothing really happened, and then they all just kind of remember at the same time. I also wish they had like a post moment of forgetting.
Yeah,
like, their memory is a little bit fuzzy just during the journey.
Yeah, the amnesia stuff I don't think works, because it's just an excuse for why it comes out of nowhere and you didn't have any indication of it beforehand, right? Like that's the whole reason, and it's just like that's kind of silly. Just it's like for the sake of having a twist. But I did appreciate that there is a connection just beyond the initial setup, mostly because I didn't buy into the initial setup. So
See, I really enjoy it. I think, and going back to what Steph said about fixed camera angles as well, that whole sequence for me is great, where they're looking into their minds in the past. They're in a completely different environment from where they actually stood in this ruined basketball court, but in their minds they're by the sea. And it did solidify the relationships with each other. I totally see all the criticisms there, but for me it still really works.
I find the whole orphanage thing actually quite dark. So when I was playing it through this time, I was like, I don't know, I feel like I had some new kind of realizations about what's going on in this whole situation. So Sid and Nadia knew ages ago that they would need to fight against the sorceress and that it would probably be her. So they had all these kids in the orphanage, which they then recruited into Garden, forced them to junction GF so that they all forgot that they knew each other and forgot that they knew that Adia was someone that cared for them, and like brainwashed them to kill sorceresses without having a problem with that.
Damn.
Yeah.
So
there's also something. There's also something about the fact that junctioning the GFs makes you forget. And School talking about sort of almost convincing himself, is it worth it? Yeah, okay, it is worth it. It's what we do. It's just what we have to do.
Yeah.
And the vagueness of the story kind of works with that in a way, because there's no real driving end goal.
It just
clear
kind of is
end
what
goal.
it is.
Yeah, it's like a machine.
It's work. Yeah.
I feel like Sid had this like master plan that kind of takes most of like the first 2 discs that's like playing out, and that he's like got these like children from the orphanage and like basically controlled their lives so that
Maybe it weighed on
like
his conscience. That's why he's like pieces out the second he can. He's like, all right, I'm giving it all to Squall.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why he is so. It's weird at first, like how confident he is that it's like, Squall, you have to lead the garden. It's your destiny. It's just like, well, it's a destiny you kind of just like forced me into, and like I was cluing into like a lot of these details that you're mentioning, Rob, and like I guess my biggest question was like, why didn't the party like confront Sid like more aggressively at this point for this? Like they're not like disturbed by
no,
these
he's
facts?
framed as like good and like that it's positive. This is like maybe thematically my biggest problem with the game, is that at the beginning you kind of get a lot of these scenes, like especially like when they go to that was like the magazine or whatever, and you talk to that guy and he's like talking about like old people complaining about the past or whatever.
Oh yeah,
and
the timber maniacs.
Yeah, and there's this like theme of like people trying to use their kids or the next generation to fix the problems that they created, right? And I feel like at the beginning of the game it's like kind of critiquing that, and then by the end it's like, no, that's actually good and you should do that, and that's kind of what the party is doing. And I kind of feel like it kind of goes back on kind of what it was setting up thematically with that. I don't know how other people feel about that, but that's kind of how I felt. And the Laguna stuff also kind of plays into that a little bit, though I do think the Laguna sections are very interesting, and probably one of the better narrative parts of the game. But it's just like the fact that Squall is Laguna's son, and that Renoa is Julia's daughter, and so it's like, do you guys follow where I'm going with that?
Corny, but I do love that, where it's like the kids find each other and like they can be happy. That,
I've always really loved it, and simultaneously found it. I've always really loved it, and simultaneously found it kind of weirdly creepy as well.
Yeah,
it's just
it's not creepy. It's a coincidence of like cosmic proportions.
Yeah,
and, like if your best friend, had a kid, and the kids, like each other, it's like, oh, okay, they're good. They're someone good for them.
I'm still trying to get my head around the fact that Laguna is Squall's dad. This is like something that I only found out about an hour ago. So I'm
what?
I don't know how I never realised that, but yeah.
Because like Kiro spells it out. He's like, "You look just like your mom." It's like, why would you be bringing that up? And it's like the crux of what Alone was doing too. I was like, her. I remember being confused about the first time around. I didn't really understand what her deal was.
Yeah.
at all, but I knew about Laguna before I knew about her, weirdly enough. I thought she
I
was
knew,
just
I knew that Rinoa was
familiar.
Julia's daughter. I
Yeah.
totally got that, which is weird because that is kind of delivered in such a more like subtle, random way. But yeah, I don't know. I miss big plot points sometimes.
That's so sweet too. So her mom wrote a love song, and like it's like used as the main song for their theme.
Yeah, that's like one of the
That's so
bigger hints you
interesting.
get for it, because like you're right, Rob. Like, because I knew this from like previous playthrough. I don't remember how I learned it, if I like read it online or something. But like I knew that Squall was Laguna's son. And like I was just like waiting for the moment in the story here where that like is revealed explicitly, but it's not. It's
No.
only
Yeah.
like
No.
implied through
Yeah.
a couple of details, like I noted. Like
Very
I think that
strongly,
the reuse
basically.
of Eyes on Me is like a big one, like that kind of
Yeah.
clues you in to
Mhm.
it, like how it kind of becomes a motif of Squall and Renoa's romance, of like the failed romance between Laguna and Julia. I think there's like a moment with Alone, I think in the space section, where she
Mhm.
mentions that Rain was pregnant while Laguna was
Mm.
away with the
Mhm.
rebellion, and also the Sorceress Rebellion ended 18 years ago, which is like basically the age of the entire cast.
Mhm.
There's the Kyros remark in Ragnarok, but that's like really easy to miss.
Yeah.
If you're just like kind of like, because
Drove
like
me
they end
nuts
up in
that
your
Well,
party, but you just like go to the next objective. You could just like skip that
Yeah.
entirely.
I read that the Laguna sections were actually supposed to be like expanded, and they had to cut a lot of that, and that the game
Ah.
was supposed to be like half Laguna sections and half the
Yeah,
Squall
yeah.
sections.
Oh
wow.
wow! I
interesting.
didn't know that.
Yeah, and so I think a lot of that is just a consequence of them cutting a lot of the Laguna stuff.
It makes me
Ah.
sad and mad
Yeah.
that like Kyros and Ward wear those stupid Esthar outfits, and like Laguna's just in like casual Friday
Yeah.
gear.
I love Laguna's presidential outfit. It's so casual.
It's super yeah, everybody's like dressed up to the nines and wearing these like fancy sci-fi robes, and he's just like, nah, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, it's a
Benefits of
shame they had
power,
to
I suppose,
cut that stuff, because I think
Yeah.
that the Laguna story is actually really interesting, and I think that like thematically that might have helped tie some of those things in the game together a little more if you saw
Yeah.
more of like his journey.
It's
But
fun to see
unfortunately,
how
you don't get that.
different Dad is from the son, and like how just that kind of years of abandonment and confusion just kind of really ruined Squall. Whereas opposed to Laguna, it's his team that was why he got as far as he did.
Yeah, I particularly love the fighting the dragon cinema
Yeah.
movie there.
The music
That
is
was
so
that was
good.
such a
There's another
random
subtle hint, isn't
flashback.
there? Oh, I haven't used a gun blade for ages.
Yeah.
It's like little,
Yeah,
and like
very random.
because the way you get like Laguna's full backstory is you have to find all the issues of Timber Maniacs, and then you have to access Selfie's diary in the garden, and then you kind of get like a linear explanation of like everything kind of Laguna went through from like the beginning to like ending up as the president of Esthar. But that's just like super hidden, and there's like a lot of like secret
a lot of
story
stop-offs,
details in
yeah.
this game
Yeah.
that are just straight up like hidden, that you have to like kind of explore as a player in order to access, that actually like flesh out the story and the themes like quite a bit. Like I know
Yeah.
like two other big ones are the Master Fisherman side quest and Fisherman's Horizon.
What happens in
And
that one? Do you mind? I
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
where
So like
really
at
good.
that point, like basically it's your first like clued into the existence of this when like the garden is crashing that Fisherman's Horizon. You see the cinematic of that one fisherman kind of like
Yeah.
off, and he like has to run away. That's the
Yeah.
Master Fisherman. He can only be accessed kind of like near where like the garden, you first like exit the garden into the town, and there's like a big like water tank, and there's like a very obscured ladder you have to interact with to climb down. But if you do all that and you meet the Master Fisherman, he's like this really like kind of down to earth old dude, and he like kind of like clearly wants to like teach Squall something. And he like, you learn a lot about like the history of Fisherman's Horizon as a town that is like founded by dissidents of the Sorceress War in Esthar, so people who want to like pursue like pacifism. And it like just like it's like kind of like a prolonged sequence where Squall starts to like respect and actually like connect with someone from an older generation, and gets
cool.
like a lot more perspective on like the value of like peace, as opposed to like his kind of single-mindedness up to that point of like kind of like internalized being a soldier and like pursuing that. because without that context, like I feel like that whole Fisherman's Horizon section kind of gives you the idea that like the mayor's pacifism is like naive, and like Squall and Seed have to step in to like save their asses essentially. But like
I have that
this
line
is like
in
a
my
lot
brain where
more
he's like,
sympathetic.
I'll be blunt, when are you leaving?
Yeah.
I love that.
So yeah, I think like those
I did
like
not know
extra
that.
details are interesting. Like obviously from like a cohesive storytelling standpoint, like obscuring core details are kind of silly, but like it's cool how it's there.
Shoot, I missed that this time around. I did it a long time ago, but I completely forgot about it. Darn. Time to play again.
And then the other, like, did you guys do Shumi Village, which is another optional thing?
I did. Yeah.
Oh yeah, even that thing is like, oh, you smell. They keep calling Squall Laguna.
Yeah, and that's like
Yeah, I was
another
like,
kind of foreshadowing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the Shumis really kind of like have this like almost Buddhist like existence, and like they really have internalized the idea that like they all have their roles to play, and like kind of this human idea of free will is like a bit of a like it's like a luxury essentially. And like Squall thinks it's like kind of like a sad sort of existence where you just like have to like end up pursuing something. But I think that's something that Squall's like journey of maturity like kind of forces him to do. He has to like kind of put aside his like personal ways of life and kind of like be elevated to like kind of this social cause that and leadership that he's like kind of been put on.
I 100% think people who don't like Squall, I'm like, you just have not played the game recently. Like,
yeah, he's a great
He's got
character.
layers. He's an onion. He's a total onion with layers.
Yeah, what did you guys think of like just Squall's character development in general? Because I feel like the transition from disc 1 to disc 2, and I'm not sure what does it, if it's like the near death experience at the end of disc 1, or if it's like the consequence of like witnessing all the Laguna sequences, but like something definitely changes in him in disc 2 where like, because you got like his interiority throughout the whole game, and you slowly start seeing him like thinking of other people more, like confronting that like a lot of his like
I think it's that idea. He did not have like a proper normal childhood. He was whisked away. He doesn't
Yeah,
even have
he's
memories of his
traumatized.
friends that he does have. So he's just
Yeah.
not interested in taking part.
Yeah,
He
and
reminds
like,
me
it
a lot
hurts.
of Luke from Tales of Abyss, I think. Like where you have this very significant change that a character undergoes, and you get to see like the development of that character
Very
across
real,
like
yeah.
the entire game. Yeah. And I think that's executed very well. Like he doesn't start out like I mean, he's cool, right, in like an edgy way, but he's not very likable at the beginning. But then you get a lot of his like internal thoughts, and you see his relationship develop with the other characters, and that really goes a long way to like endear him to you. And I think people are used to, I think maybe why some people don't like Squall is because they want to like the character from the beginning, and you really have to like invest some time before it like pays off. But I prefer that kind of storytelling. Yeah.
I feel like the trigger point for when you start kind of seeing him start to emotionally connect more with the other characters is when they're reunited after they split into two groups at the beginning of disc 2, and he thinks for quite a while that the other three characters that you sent to the missile base are dead. When they get reunited in Fisherman's Horizon, I think his first thought, because he doesn't say it out loud, is just something like, yes, they're alive, or like something that really like expresses that he's relieved and like really pleased that they are back. And that for me was like one of the first moments where you start to see his like development of an emotional connection to the other characters.
Yeah, I would say to me there's like an element of is it an element of him changing, or an element of us just being made more privy to his inner monologue? And for me, the thing that epitomized that, I won't go into too much detail, I don't know how we're going to talk about that later maybe, but when he's with Rinoa in the ship returning to the planet, and he keeps telling her to sit in a seat, she doesn't, and he says to her, in his head he thinks, you sit in the seat, you won't get you'll be safer that way. And that line kind of felt like it had a double meaning to me, because like say we're talking about he's afraid of being hurt, he's afraid of hurting others, emotionally letting them in. So that line had this really strong impact that was more than just a command for her to stop jumping on him all the time.
Yeah, I thought exactly the same actually when I was playing through that bit this time.
Yeah, we really like learned to see like how much his stoic behavior was really just generated out of fear, and it seemed like he was just like talking himself into like thinking that's how you be like mature, without like kind of acknowledging that like maturity does come from like depending on other people and things like that. And like his whole thing of not wanting to depend on other people was just because he had such a solitary childhood, essentially. And yeah, he slowly starts like confronting that in his inner thoughts throughout the game.
I actually liked there's the one scene where like Renoa gives him hell for it too, where it's like, you know, it's like Zell is worried, you know, it's like, is everyone gonna be okay? And he's like, I don't know, like he just doesn't want to put his head in that space, probably not gonna be okay at this bad times. And Renoa's like, can you like lift up your team a little bit, please?
Yeah.
You know, like, come on, man, like we're all worried, but we need some positivity. We need actually, you know, some support system here. You know, we're all here for each other.
Yeah, she's a good foil for Squall, I think, throughout the game.
I know a lot of people are like, just leave him alone. He's obviously introverted. It's like, no, he needs to come out of his shell a little bit. He's a little too much in there.
Yeah. And she can like come off at the beginning as kind of ridiculous or like immature, but I think in reality, like she's kind of teaching him some of that like openness and vulnerability that he needs to have to like connect with other people that she's good at. And that's kind of how they kind of learn from one another. And I think that also reinforces like why their relationship kind of works, even though I think a lot of the other parts of the narrative don't really work that well, is because you can really see how they play off of one another and learn from each other. And that makes it feel authentic that they kind of
the cast even supporting it, like it is a positive change in Squall. You know, like she's helping you out, dude.
I really it takes a while to sink in though as well, because that bit where Quistis say, you know, Renoa is taken away after he's rescued, and Quistis says, "You just effectively, you just jumped into literal space for her, and now you're just you're just letting it go." What's wrong? And he's like, "Oh yeah, actually."
And then he's just like, "Yeah, what the hell am I doing?"
Okay, let's go back there. And like they just go in there, raise a bit of hell, and like I didn't care for that. I thought that was a little silly, but it was a nice effect anyway. It's like, yeah, okay, he's finally let his guard completely down, but like all right, let's go get her again. Turn back.
I really love the bit, just going back to the bit where they're in the spaceship and she's like trying to sit on his lap in the chair. I really love the bit just after that where she does go back to her seat and then she's talking about like what's going to happen to me like when we land, and then on the radio the SRS air station are like, "Is the sorceress there with you?" And then Squall gets out of his chair and goes to hug her. I thought that was so like just very lovely, and I think like he's starting to kind of understand that that she has had this like situation forced upon her. She didn't ask for any of this, and she is aware and he is aware that when she gets back she's going to be like persecuted for this thing that she now is without any kind of, she didn't have any decision in the fact, and he's trying to like give her some kind of comfort, but at the same time I think is also trying to like comfort himself a bit. And it's such a short scene, but it's like it's so I feel like it's like saying so much in that short little section.
Well, I always remember him walking off with her on his back, like where he's just carrying her in through the street. Just has a moment to sit down and just like kind of misses her and being talkative and all that. Like,
that's the climactic moment as well of the of this Eyes on Me as well. In my mind, I guess it was something much bigger, but it's actually really small, as Rob says there. And yeah, I think that works so well.
Yeah, one of the lines I really liked from that little sequence was Renoa, they're just like talking, and like Squall's kind of letting out his emotions a little bit more, and then Renoa tells him like, you missed out on all the good things in life, and like part of that is because he's like closed himself up to other people out of fear so much, and now like because he's fallen in love, like he's starting to open up to that. And Yeah, I think like it also makes sense. Like, it actually does make sense why they like both kind of just like buy into the fact that no, we have to be separated now because they are only like 17 years old, and there's like all of these like geopolitical and world-ending consequences around them, and like they think they have to follow through, but then like Squall also has like this moment of kind of like sincere teenage love where he just like actually screw all that, like I just need to be with Renoa no matter what. And like that just makes the emotional core like so much stronger
If
for the
everything
rest of
else
the
is going
game, I
crazy,
think.
you have something in your life that's normal,
When
nice, you
and
know?
it's them like asserting their identity, right? Because like so much of their lives have been kind of put out for them, and so
Yeah.
that's kind of, I guess, part of what the game is trying to say about like you being youthful or whatever. It's like you get to make your own choices, right? And make your life what you want it to be outside of what the adults or the authorities in your life are trying to tell you what to be. And so that's
And
kind of an example of them doing that. Yeah.
And in a strange way, it links Squall to Sifa as well, with that line you mentioned where he says, "I'll be your, I'll be your knight. I will do it. If you're the enemy, I will protect you." It's kind of the way Sifa feels about Ultimisha, in a way, in his role there. So it's an interesting kind of moral element to that. I don't know if that's like fully explored, but yeah, it's definitely a quandary.
Yeah, I picked up on that too, and like kind of my takeaway was that like the contrast there is like Cypher became like somewhat like a sorceress's knight for like kind of power because that's ultimately what like drives him, and like Squall did it like because he like slowly developed that like this sense that like fighting for other people is good and worth it, and so he's like doing it out of love, and like that's ultimately what separates the two because otherwise they are so similar as characters.
I think a big theme in the game also is like finding your finding your family and like finding your way in life. Like all of these characters were in an orphanage when they were children, and I think in a lot of other like games or films or shows or anything where you have main characters with like mysterious pasts who don't know who their parents are and all that kind of stuff, that's usually treated as like a plot twist or like a big reveal where they find out who their parents are, and that becomes like a core part of the story and who they are. Whereas I feel like in this game the characters don't really get that, and I think it's more about them finding their own family and finding their own relationships and connections with those people around them.
I actually like that point that it doesn't detract from anything. You're right. Like they kind of keep it in the periphery like that. There's enough to piece it together for sure. So but like right now there is a central issue, and they kind of put that at the focus first. And like we'll talk about everything after, and we'll do the reunion after.
That's kind of the point of Laguna's story, and like the sections where they are shown like Laguna's memories, right? Is also like that. It's not just because it's not really they're not doing it because like Laguna is Squall's father. They're being shown that because Laguna was also kind of going through the same journey of like finding his purpose and like what he was supposed to do. And so I feel like the effect of showing them all that is to teach them the same thing, but it's not really about like the fact that they're connected like biologically. It's more like that their purpose, or they're connected in like purpose. And so that kind of also gets to where the parentage part isn't what's important about that. It's that they have kind of the same goal, or they need to learn the same lesson that he learned.
Oh, Ben, listen to you. You're going to come back in like a year or two, be like, I just played FF8 again and I love
it now. It's like the idea of like making the parentage reveal optional, or like something you can only like get at through these like little hidden hints, is like part of like this theme of like free will and destiny, where it just like is like, are they together, Squall and Renoa together because it's destined because of the parentage thing, or are they this actually like just an act of like free will and love? Like that's like something that like they leave open ended, which I think is actually really great for the making the story a little bit more thematically interesting.
And even though we might know who certain characters' parents are, the characters in the game don't. So I feel like it's not treated as like a key kind of point of the story in the game, if you know what I mean. Like,
yeah,
we get the satisfaction from knowing it, but it's not about that for the characters. It's about them finding their own way, I think.
And I think too, it's important that like Julia and Laguna like moved on, right? Like that they moved on with other people, and there wasn't really that like regret, that they weren't together or whatever. Like they fully moved on and had different lives, and that was like fine and good. So it's I think that also is like kind of reinforcing the idea that even though there is this kind of like poetic sense of they were, in love or whatever, but then it wasn't meant to be, and now their kids are like getting together. It's kind of also kind of moving away from that in a way, like that isn't necessarily.
They still found something that made them happy. Well, maybe less Julia, but
yeah.
But it still meant a whole world of Renoa in it,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
That was the real benefit, and I think most parents want to see their kids do better than them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't buy that the president could not find a loan. I don't think I like that one. Where it's like he had trouble tracking her down after she was kidnapped.
And then all this time passed, he says. Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. That's a bit of a stretch.
I think that was the only part I really did not like, because I was like, come on, man, he's El Presidente of like the largest landmass of city on the planet. It's like, use a tracking device. Surely there is one.
Yeah, I think if you examine a lot of the plot details like in detail like that, they kind of fall apart.
Yeah, just don't think about it too much.
We finally have TV broadcast for the first time in 17 years. What?
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. I think it's more like the thematic kind of content behind some of these things like is what really matters, because I don't think they were too concerned, with the actual details. Like it doesn't seem like the developers cared at all. No. It's just like, we're just gonna have these
like we're the ones who ask why. I'm sure they've doted on enough detail, and they're just like, okay, we got to move on. Or we're gonna be writing this for years.
What I want to know is why Estar Air Station spent 17 years on the radio trying to find the Ragnarok, because they must have if they thought it was gone. Why didn't they? Like, what were they doing for 17 years? Did they not have something better to do?
The Ragnarok. Why is it so slow?
It's not on 3 times speed.
No.
Yeah, true.
Oh man, it used to drive me nuts. I guess like it was loading bigger graphics too. I guess that's why FF9 is all about mist.
Oh,
you can
true.
hide the details. But no. Yeah, that was a point I really wanted to bring up. I really like the weird balance in this game of like fight sequences with long drawn out like take it easy sequences. I think this is something Final Fantasy forgot how to do only up until recently with Remake and Rebirth. So like a lot of the PS1 games, like they have like that, like FF7 had the whole gold saucer sequence, and you're hanging out like North Corral, and you're doing even Costa del Sol, and that's like lots of fun. And then you have a period where you're just kind of fighting. FF8 has like, you're doing all this mission stuff, and then you're doing the stuff at Fisherman's Horizon, and you're putting on a concert. FF9, same thing. They have a period of like just just huge downtime. You could do all those ATEs and just walk around town, and then more fighting. FF10 then became very, very linear with kind of story segments interspersed in there. FF11 was what it was. FF12 was like an offline MMO. There wasn't really big set pieces in that one, not quite like the other ones in my opinion. 13 was corridors, and 15 saved all of its set pieces for the very end. And I think the balance that the PlayStation 1 Final Fantasy games have of like having you have fun with people, having you have fun with the characters and mini games and all that, and the sequences you're doing missions and fighting is really strong and keeps the entire game so interesting to kind of pace around with.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but it's like it's so much not structured like a traditional RPG is structured. Like it's almost structured like an action adventure, like almost like I don't know, Metal Gear Solid or something, like it just has such a different like feel to like the pacing and the way events are laid out. And I know Alex, you're a big fan of this game too, but it's almost like an anti Dragon Quest VII, which is kind of funny because they come out, they're like contemporary, right? But like just they could not be more opposite in terms of like how the narrative is constructed and laid out and everything. Like Dragon Quest VII is like, just like town or the islands, right? And each island is its own vignette, and you go to each one, and then they build on each other, and you have this kind of overarching narrative that connects them. And this is just like, screw all that. We're just gonna do whatever the hell we want. in whatever, you know, order. And if it doesn't really make sense or come together fully, it's like, who cares? Like, it's just about showing you as many big ideas as they can.
Just totally ignoring FF Type 0. I think the FF game should bring back that. Like, again, if they actually did do an FF8 remake, which is the one I think kind of deserves it most, just to embellish this world just that much more and maybe, you know, connect its dots a little more, is I like that mission structure for a lot of FF8's big set pieces. Like, it'd be cool to see that even elaborated on, you know, and like give more rankings on. Because there's so many damn time sequences in this game. That's probably another reason people will love it or hate it. But I did think it gave a really good flavor to this one as this military operation Final Fantasy that it is.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate that in like a post like open world, peak open world era, like we don't really get games that tell their stories like this anymore.
Yeah,
and
it's
like,
definitely linear. Like, you are missing stuff if you don't poke around.
Yeah, and I think like maybe part of it is just like to have this many, like to just go set piece after set piece and like kind of like not have that usual familiar gameplay loop to really go into. Like maybe that would be too expensive with modern graphics at the same time, because like what this game is doing with like all these set pieces, trying to like tie cinematic storytelling into gameplay, like that's like in like a AAA game now, like that would like be so much of an investment to put on. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because Final Fantasy 16 kind of does do that though, right? But it's just like it has these really crazy bombastic set pieces that feel disconnected from the
like
rest
the dungeons,
of what...
right?
Yeah. And the boss fights, right? Like, which are really crazy. But so much of that game is like it's not really open world, but like, you know, with these different towns and the side quests where you're going in the swamp to like fight stuff or whatever. Like, I feel like it feels very disjointed. And so they're still trying to do that, but like they're trying to marry that with like modern design
with like
trends.
MMO design essentially.
Yeah. And that just does not work, I don't think. I actually think like probably the one that gets it the best is like Final Fantasy VII Remake, the first one of the trilogy.
I love the pacing in that game, to be honest.
Yeah, it's like more linear, more set piece to set piece. You do have some room to like explore or go around.
I thought it was fun breaking up into chapters. They probably should do that for FF8 in a way.
Yeah, like it that kind of works, and so it kind of maintains that pacing, and it is kind of, I guess, a little bit similar to like how Final Fantasy VIII goes, but I think it gives a little more, because it's more drawn out. It gives a little more time to eat all the characters and kind of fleshes out the world a little more. But yeah,
I love 7 Remake, but after a certain major event happens in that game, and then suddenly it's like, do you want to do some side quests for a while? That for me felt actually like quite bad pacing. At that point, and 8 doesn't do that.
There's a lot of RPGs that do that, and it kind of sucks.
Well, it's like it's become an expectation for the genre, right? I think, and I don't know that that's. I mean, what was the last game that was covered by Retro Encounter, which I was not a part of, but I did listen to, is Persona 5, right? And that's a game that like has serious pacing problems in kind of a similar way. And they load all of this like side content and like other like mementos, for example, that you can do, but it's like this is all bogging down like the core narrative, right? And like the structure is kind of bogging it down. And so I think Final Fantasy, like the later, more recent ones, have kind of fallen into that. And maybe they could learn something about how to not do that from this game. Even though I'm not a huge fan of this game, I do think that is a fair point about like the pacing and the way that the narrative is kind of doled out is different. And maybe they need to go back to that kind of style instead.
Yeah, it's just something different to iterate on rather than like all these modern kind of game design conventions.
I definitely think that it's like probably one of the main reasons why my favorite era of Final Fantasy is the PlayStation 1 like trilogy, I guess. I just like just the way of telling that story feels like you are going on a very natural journey or adventure, or like if you're reading like a book or watching a film, that lack of like structure that I think so many games have now, where like games that are split into chapters, or where you can almost predict what kind of thing you're going to do next because of where you are right now. Like if it's some games have like city, dungeon, exploration, city, dungeon, like I think the lack of any of those patterns just really helps the storytelling in 7, 8 and 9 especially to feel really like organic and unexpected. And
I really agree.
And unique to this day, no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the flip side is that traditional RPG design does give more time for like the characters to develop and them to interact with one another, and you to develop like themes and ideas across like, the various like maybe side stories or smaller contained stories within a larger narrative. And I think that is something that like Dragon Quest VII that I brought up earlier does really, really well, and something that like Final Fantasy VIII kind of is totally unconcerned with largely. Outside of maybe a couple things like I didn't do some of the side quests that you were talking about, Alex, and I think that probably those are examples of it trying to do some of that, but there's a few of those, right? Like it's not the overall kind of structure of the game. And so, but it sacrifices that in favor of kind of doing this very bombastic set piece driven design, and that makes it unique and interesting, I think, compared to the other RPGs of this time. And so there's something worth exploring in that, probably.
There's two characters we haven't talked about I really want to bring up quickly is Raijin and Fujin. Like I like how they even have like Squall's main problem figured out very early on. Like they are friends with Cypher, like they're just the bullies buddies. And like they're actually very nice to him. And they really respect him. And here I wrote down a quote: Cypher has a lot of followers, but we're his only friends. So I kind of like this idea that like they see that he's being manipulated by a witch, and that she's like kind of taking him over in a worse way. And it's like we'll do whatever we can for you, you're our best buddy, but right now you're being manipulated and you need to know that.
Yeah, it's a very like shonen anime, like manga kind of construction of like
really
a
cute,
character
of
relationship.
rival.
Yeah, like the rival, and then these are his like lackeys, or his like squad basically. But they're devoted to him, and I like that. Like it gives Seifer a little more like humanity, I think, because he has these people who are dedicated to him, and even if you don't fully see like why they have that dedication to him, it at least gives you a sense like, oh well, these people like really care about him, so there must be something more to him than what we're seeing, right?
Yeah.
I also really love Zell's like romance side quest with the girl in the library. I think that's really cute. Or like if you go back every so often, like you get a little extra bit of information, and then the little scene where they're in the hotel and she like gives him the book that she thinks he's going to enjoy based on like what she knows about him, I think is really sweet. It's like when people make like when you make like a mixtape for someone that you like, or I thought that was really cute.
Yeah, Zell desperately needs moments like that because he gets very little in this game.
He doesn't even get hot dogs, man, until the very end.
Until the very end.
And then he gets all of the hot dogs at the end.
Yeah.
It's his Final Fantasy.
So Final Fantasy VIII remake needs to foreshadow the hot dogs, is what we're saying.
It's so weird, like thinking about what like a Final Fantasy VII remake approach to Final Fantasy VIII would be. Like I don't like what would
insane, honestly.
Yeah, it's such a weird concept.
So one thing I know, a few years ago, I noticed for the first time that Gilgamesh had half his arms were cardboard or something. I did not notice that. I was like, I didn't understand what the detail was. It was too low res, so I didn't understand what I was looking at. And then I saw it was like 3 fists in different colors. I was like, that's so stupid. This time, however, so I noticed that like Squall holds a sword like kind of like Cloud does, like he just kind of holds it out in front of him, but Cypher does the whole like gun cocked on the side like gangster kind of hold.
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny. So I thought that was a really cute animation detail. Just in general, I appreciate just how opposite they look. Like he's the slicked back hair, with the white jacket, and Squall's got the like cool down hair.
I think one of my most satisfying moments in the game was facing Cypher in one of the battles, and just like I got Zell to low health and was just like limit breaking Cypher over and over again. So it felt like revenge for all the bullying. I'm just like suplexing Cypher and like hitting him with dolphins and beating the crap out of him. Like, yeah.
Yeah, he kind of has that, there's always that like kid who's like a bully in high school and they look like they're like 35 years old, and that's like super,
Yeah.
Oh, I still don't think they look at all their age. It's so
No.
crazy. These are supposed to be 17-year-olds. I'm like, no, get
Seifer's
out
the
of
guy
here.
that you would go to get the alcohol for the party because he never gets
Right?
carded because he
Yeah.
looks like a 40-year-old
Yeah.
man. It's bizarre.
I really love the use of animals in limit breaks in this game too.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
dolphins, and then Renoa shooting Angelo off.
Oh, the dog! Oh my
Oh,
god!
poor
Yeah.
Angelo.
It's crazy.
Angelo
I'm
seems
glad-
cool with it.
He can do.
Glad we
He,
don't have a-
he can do everything. He can make people invincible. He can find items. He can resurrect people. You can shoot him like a cannon.
Good boy.
And
Yeah.
he's.
I'm
he's
glad. I'm
great.
glad there's no realistic consequence for shooting. a
Yeah.
dog.
Yeah, that's another thing too. I think this game does well that like I think the modern Final Fantasies have kind of missed is like the like absurdity and like ridiculousess of
Them
certain
going
things.
back to
Oh
that
yeah,
with
early
Remake and
Final
Rebirth
Fantasy's
was so
good for that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
like 16 is so dour. And like
Yeah.
and even 15 like has some goofy moments, but like it's not the same.
not
Like
the
the
same,
goofy
no.
moments in 15 are like cup noodle. It's like a big advertisement. It's like, okay, well, I'm
mhm.
not about that necessarily. Whereas like here, you have these kind of really absurd like with everything with Angelo and stuff, it's just like, wow, that's crazy. But like it's funny. I don't know. It's not afraid to be like absurd and like laugh at itself a little bit.
Yeah.
It almost reminds me like Shadow Hearts in that way too, like you're just gonna have something goofy for the sake of it.
And the little alien encounters as well
Oh
that
my
you can
God.
get.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I absolutely
Yeah.
died when I was like zooming across little cows. Like, what the hell? This is so silly.
And we've been talking about like how it's so film like that has such a film quality to it, like this game. But that's also, I think, one of the things that like games can do that a lot of other mediums can't is like the big tonal shifts without like losing like the viewer or like the player. And I think it really leans into that. Like it still feels like a video game, even though there's all these kind of like film style like framings to scenes and things that they're cinematic like ambitions to the game. It's not afraid of like being like a goofy like video game for a lot of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And
kind
I
of
think
goes back to Spirits
Yeah.
Within again, couldn't it? Can you imagine something like that happening in
Yeah,
that movie?
Yeah,
They wouldn't have
exactly.
dared,
Yeah.
would they? Yeah.
yeah, and that's
Sci-fi's
something
having quirky humor is part of the bundle, in my opinion, and they should have done it.
Yeah, it's something
Yeah.
that like series like these older FFs, Metal Gear, Yakuza, all
Mhm.
like a tone
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a tonal balance that like video games are very good at doing, but it seems like they're becoming less and less interested in doing.
Mm. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
interesting point, so because like with Like a Dragon as well, the trailers always really, for the most part,
Serious, yeah.
de-emphasize the comedy aspects and really go for the serious.
yeah, or
interest, but-
even something like Dragon Quest still does that, right? Like you'll have really
Yeah, for sure.
heartfelt storytelling moments and then some goofy stuff happens, right? Or Disco Elysium, like I think is probably the best written game ever, and that game is absurd in many cases, but they like I think the best games like understand that you can be goofy and silly and be serious within the same work, and that it doesn't take away from one or the other, and that's something unique that video games can do that I think other mediums have a harder time doing.
Mm.
And this game definitely understands that, I think, even if I don't think it really does the narrative super well. Like it does the tonal shifts, like it does that without like kind of losing the heart of it or whatever,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Speaking of the narrative, we should probably get back to it just to close things off.
There's so much to say.
All right, so
Not often they do like a big gimmick for the final dungeons like they did here. It's like you have to like get your abilities back.
oh, I know it's great. Which
Yeah, that was
I definitely want to
pain in
talk
the
about the
ass.
final dungeon.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Um,
anyways, okay. One thing I think this is a common criticism too is that Ultimisia just kind of plop her in the story at some point. It's like, yep, she's the big baddie.
Yeah, because like basically like at the end of
don't know
disc
anything about
2,
her.
we're like doing Galvadia Garden, right? We think Idia's
Yeah.
like the main villain of the story. We do like the big boss fight with her and Cypher,
Yeah.
and then we defeat it, and then Idia's suddenly like fine. And like
Yeah.
for the record, I think like she's a little underdeveloped as a character post possession. I think
Yeah.
there was
Completely,
like
she just
Yes.
drops off.
Yeah.
since she like actually
Oh, nice
joins your
now.
party. I thought they were gonna do a lot more with her, but they don't. But anyways, like basically what happens happens is she's no longer possessed, even though she still assumes Ultimicia's in her. But Ultimecia had now possessed Renoa, which leads to those things we talked about, like with the space station, how she's going through possessed and things like that. All those spooky vibes we get. Squall having to like being torn whether to like pursue Renoa or like fulfill his duty as a seed. And basically we end up meeting with President Laguna of Esthar, with his great casual wear. And we get this big lore dump that I don't think I'm prepared to go through, but we find out that the German doctor type guy Odin
or something.
Did experiments on Alone to get her like time travel projection kind of power and create what he calls junction machine
too, that they don't go into. It's like, oh yeah, the witches can have unique powers. It's like, oh, I wish we saw that more.
I know that could have really been developed further. But yeah, we basically learned that junction machine Elon, this machine which we don't actually see or really know how it works at all, is something Ultimecia is able to leverage from the future, which is letting her possess sorceresses in the present.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
But I remember when I looked up Ultimecia, I was like, is there like a lore thing that I missed? And like the only thing it starts describing was when Ultimecia possesses Adia. So there's no real origin story to her, I guess.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you guys what you think about her as a villain, because like I assumed there was going to be more development of the character, but it does seem like she's pretty much just rah evil. I want power and to rule the world. I felt like there were like some hints of like sorceresses being like an oppressed group, and like maybe that spurred her to these feelings of revenge. But I don't know. Did anybody else pick up on anything here?
I do.
Not really.
I think this is a very particularly like common RPG trope that the games fall into, where it's like they build up like a villain and then they do like a rug pull and they're like, oh, actually the villain is this other thing. And I think they do it because they're like, oh, the scale of the scope of like the conflict needs to be bigger, and so then the villain becomes this like esoteric like world ending catastrophe thing. And I just think that's not like great when games do that. And yeah, that's how it felt.
I do like though that Ultimecia had previously possessed Adele. That is not yes, Adele. That is correct, isn't it? That was
Adele's
also
so
her.
Cool looking, and like we get no explanation there either.
No, but like I like the fact that she had possessed someone before Adia, but people just weren't aware that it was her.
Yeah,
like I thought that was quite cool.
The plan was in motion before.
Yeah. This one person is causing all this is like trying to pull all these stops by possessing all these people. Like that's actually a really cool plot point, that you know, these witches is maybe just one witch who's just like completely taking over these people.
Is this where you're gonna tell us everything about sorceresses? Steph?
Maybe.
Yeah, drop some knowledge on us, Steph.
Are we ready to talk about the ending then?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like, basically all that happens from here is Laguna tells everybody that we can overcome this time compression thing that Ultimecia is trying to do, literally through the power of friendship. And like, I would really roll my eyes at that if it wasn't coming from Laguna, but because it is. And also that Squall acknowledges, he like has a line where he's like, that's pretty corny, but it seems like everyone's on board. It almost feels like parody.
No, but it's cool to see how it actually plays out, that Squall is all alone and how he is without it, and you really see it visualized that he is just in this like private dimension that he can't go anywhere. And I think that's so troubling and alarming to see it visualized like that. He just kind of exhausts himself in there. It's kind of a crazy thing to imagine. His whole breakdown in that whole final sequence is just absolutely crazy. Like, it's several minutes long. It's like 8 minutes of like going back to the Blam Garden sequence and just seeing how his memory is, you know, like point by point being deleted, and having the one important person in his life being deleted out of it and forget everybody else and everything that happened to him. It's just so beautifully visually represented, and it's long, but it almost feels like a point that like you're really there to suffer with him through this repetition.
Can we also talk about I'm curious how you all found the final boss fights.
Well, just like Ultimicia's castle in general, it's like such a cool idea for a final dungeon, like that you get there, your powers are all stripped away. You basically only have access to your attack, and there's like a series of like 8-ish bosses, and defeating each one gets your like you can like pick what power you want back, whether it's like draw, access to your magic, the ability to save even is locked out.
So mean.
And like you have to like do all these puzzles, which like, all right, who was able to do all of these puzzles without any guide? I'm just
Hell
curious.
No.
I'm not that smart. I was like, especially when I played it the first time, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing at all, and I don't even understand half the plot. But like even now, I'll still kind of run around like a chicken with my head off.
Yeah, like one of them was just like you have like this kind of like pulley type elevator situation, and like the only way you can get it to work is you have to somehow intuit that the party that has 2 or more women is the lighter one. And so that has to be on the one side, and then the party with more guys is on the other side, and only then can you get the weight distribution to actually make the progression.
Yeah. Sometimes I really marvel at my younger self because I had no access to guides or anything like that at all. So how I did it,
Did
I
you
have
brute
no
force
idea.
it,
I would not.
Or
Sorry?
did you intuit the weight?
I don't know. I don't remember at all now, and it's no way I could do it now. So much of this game would just absolutely defeat me now. So, yeah, Ravage
like
is
when
a
you're
time,
young
I
and you
guess.
like do like kind of try everything. Sometimes it does just kind of work out. Then like when you're a logical adult, just thinking like, what am I doing here?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that
feel
must
like
have
the
been it.
developers were like, okay, we have this like kind of like anti-dungeon just set piece structure to the entire game. For the last dungeon, we just need to make it like as dungeon ass of a dungeon as possible, just
And then
puzzles
it almost feels
and
like
fights.
Resident Evil Castle. Like
Yeah, for real.
solve me these puzzles 3.
It looks so cool. I
love it.
love the castle at the
The
end.
And the
song,
music
too.
is so
Oh.
good. Oh
Yeah.
my
I
god.
love the
Yeah.
song just before it too. The time compression-y one that.
Oh yeah, it's
And then it just
so
goes into that kind of
off-putting. Yeah.
creepy, hollow harping, and it's just kind of freaky and I don't know. It's just vibes, all vibes.
Vibes is what this game does best for sure. Like when you're doing like the Adele fight right at the beginning of
Yeah.
disc 4,
Yeah.
and it like ends like Adele's dead, and then suddenly you're just in the orphanage of Squall. Like there's no transition, it just cuts, and it would feel like kind of like cheap and unnatural if like the game hadn't built up this like weird surreal kind of vibe to it. I thought it worked so well.
That's fair. Yeah, after a while you just kind of go with the motions, right?
Yeah.
But you really don't meet Ultimisia like until that very bitter end. I think you see her as like ghost form for a split second at one point.
You do. Yeah.
But you actually don't see her until like she's sitting up there on her throne. I love the whole like all of her C sounds are K's. Time compression.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Without the actual voice acting there, I still feel it so much.
Absolutely.
Actually,
that was a great localization.
The first time you see her, I actually think is really creepy because she appears as a ghost in one of the like flashbacks that Alone sends Squall on, I think, and she like appears and she notices that you're there, and that because you've never seen her before, I think that's quite.
I love when games drop
creepy.
like a final villain like that. You do like not enough for you to remember long term, so it's kind of cool that it kind of fades out of memory. But then when you see it there again, it's like, oh, they were planting this. And I always think that's really cool.
How did everybody find like the final boss fight in general? Was pretty easy, just spamming limit breaks?
Sure.
I feel like if you have Aura, you can just like throw that on all your party and then just go to town on Ultimisia.
Yeah, I mean, my tactic generally is like unless I've used them on either Omega or Ultima Weapon, I usually refine. I feel like this is cheating, but I usually refine the Gilgamesh card so that I get 10 Holy Wars, which makes everyone invincible. And then you just cast Aura and then repeatedly use Holy Wars, and you can just do the whole 4.
Okay, well, I didn't
fights
know
in a
that.
row.
My fight was very difficult.
Without them, it's very hard. Yeah.
I remember the first time I played it, like when I was young, and I did not get it at all. I was game sharpening my way through that. I have no idea what's going on. Especially
if you're someone that's like grinded levels, those 4 final boss fights must be really really hard because the HP I think of each boss gets like insanely more huge as like
probably
each new
the
boss
hardest
comes on.
mainline boss in my opinion if you're not prepared. A
Yeah.
lot of them you can brute your force your way into, you can just summon your best junk and your best attacks, but this one absolutely not.
Yeah, what if
There's a
people have
method
like
to its
completed the
madness.
fight without like unlocking any of the other abilities, just attack?
Yeah.
Because you can
It's
just
so
beeline for
weird.
Ultimisia without regaining any of those abilities.
Yeah.
Someone's got to have done it, haven't they?
Yeah, I'm sure somebody did.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's all the gameplay, and then suddenly we have this trippy ending. So Steph, this is your platform for your how do you interpret this thing? What's going on here? Squall's lost in a barren field. Everybody's in white space. What's going on?
That was a fun effect, and they're all just like running around. It's like, where are we? And like Squall is just all alone. Like, I love that his outfit just matches the background too, so he's just kind of even more like faded into it. Anyways, so I love that little final last minute twisty twist they did. I know we said the game's a little too twisty, but I actually love what it basically says about everything, and even what we were saying now kind of even supports it. Okay, so the final scene is that I guess he does that little timey-wimey sequence where he goes back in time with Ultimisia, right? And like he kind of sees some things, right?
Yeah.
Like you find that one final cutscene at the orphanage before it just goes straight into FMV for the rest of the game. Anyways, so I love the time paradox it creates. So Seed exists as a force that will ultimately defeat Ultimisia. That's why she was trying to take you down the whole game. So knowing this, Ultimisia wants to end Seed. You know, she's killing them. There's some dead ones outside of her palace. You know, so she wants to kill them off, all of it, before it can happen. But she fails throughout the game. She just keeps on failing. Like, it's her trying to do it at the parade. It's her trying to do it with the Galbadia Gardens and having them all fight each other. So when Ultimisia and Squall then warp out of the whole time compression-y sequence and they take the scenic route back home through that magical wormhole, they're warped back to the orphanage Idea version. So they're there. They actually warped back in time. And because a witch, so what they say is a witch has to pass on her powers before they die. So Ultimisia passed her powers on to the person that just met the future Squall, who explained that he's a seed from Balam Garden that battles dangerous witches like the one they just met. So Idea and Sid follow through on creating Seed and Balam Garden, which ultimately defeats Ultimisia. So effectively, she's locked into her own like timey-wimey loop-de-loop that creates the conditions that are going to inevitably kill her. And so while the world goes on and we get to go home, she seems doomed to just repeat herself in this loop where she goes back in time with Squall, gives her powers to Idea, who gets the ideas to start Garden that'll take down Ultimisia. This makes her little space-time conquering quest even a little sympathetic, since she's going to be destined to die every single time. We're going to move on, and she's still doing her loop to go through the motions and die. So, like, my guess is time compression was to change what time is. If she's gonna lord, she's gonna lord over this shared singular moment of time, since she can't seem to move through it anymore. And that's what I got from it.
Oh, well done, Steph.
That's good stuff. That is way more than I got from it.
Yeah. So and the whole final battle, actually, so like there's a sequence in the final battle where it goes on autopilot, like you can't die, you know, you could just keep attacking her, and she's just kind of giving out just a bit of text. And so I wrote it down because I thought it was actually really cool. So she wants to stop time forever, because if she can do that, be the singularity, then she controls everything, because it's all that she's got left. And what she says before she dies, she says, reflect on your childhood, your sensation, your words, your emotions. Time, it will not wait, no matter how hard you hold on, it escapes you. And so I like this idea that like she is dying and she is trying to stop this entire time from moving on, but it's futile. She's even saying it while she's dying. Like she's like, all of her efforts are all for naught. Everything she is trying to do, it doesn't matter. Time is moving on without her anyways. And to appreciate everything you have, and to appreciate that this party that you're with, the people that you have, because they're going to be gone one day. And you see that with Laguna, that he lost, you know, Julia, he lost Rain even, but time still moves on. There's still this kind of bit of happiness. He's got Alone, he's got Ward, he's got Kiros, he's going to have his son back in his life again. And so as sad as some parts of it is, you know, other parts of it still get to move on, and there's still some sort of happiness to fight for. And that's what Locked In FF8 is like an all-timer for me right now.
Yeah, that's really nice. And like the whole like camcorder FMV that plays like throughout the credits, like it just,
I love it.
It just gives me
so
like
good.
the vibe that everybody is just like okay with the way things have ended up, because like all like so much of the plot is like about like kind of trying to use time, manipulate time to try to like get things like to be like ideal, but like whatever actually happens is the ideal, I think, like is what like you were kind of getting at and what like the end of this game is kind of saying. And like there's just like peace in like things ending up the way they are for Laguna, for Squall. And yeah, it's definitely like an interesting ending to think about.
It's so cruel that they turn on that camcorder when it's at low battery.
Yeah.
That was such a cute little gimmick. It's like I saw that. I was like, oh no, the battery's low. And it was such a cute way to like show the rest of the cast. I'm glad they kind of like put off Squall and Renoa just so you could see a whole bunch of other stuff, a whole bunch of other goofiness.
Mm-hmm.
You see Angelo running by, you know, Zell being goofy with the hot dogs finally. And you get to see Adia and Sid like just being normal together, which I thought was really cute.
Yeah.
I like seeing that Cypher is really bad at fishing. I think that's really funny.
Oh yeah.
Like gets mad at the
Yes.
fishing rod. Stupid.
But then when like Fujin pushes Raijin into the water, he thinks it's like the funniest thing ever.
I like Laguna's method of like proposing to a woman. He just kind of stuck a ring on there. You know, it's nice she said yes. I think that was really cute. That whole ending sequence is just really nice. Like to go from the horror of like Squall's mental state, you know, just stuck in this one little tiny desert that feels like it goes on forever, which was really cool to see. To Renoa, I don't know how she finds him or rescues him. I assume it was just her magic timey-wimey witch powers, maybe.
Yeah, I also that's the like main thing about the ending where I'm like, what just happened? Like she found him and then suddenly like all the clouds are gone. I
assume
love
it was her magic. That's why I always assumed that.
I do love
like,
though that
power she has is that
when they're like in the flower field, it echoes the intro sequence where she's in the flower field on her own, and then at the end she's there with him. I think that bit is really nice. But I don't know, the end. I love the end, and I think it has like my two absolute favorite things, which are seeing what the characters do after the end of the story, and something that is a bit like a gag reel at the end of the film, and it has both of those, and I find it
it's a bit of time to decompress at the end.
Yeah.
I love
really
Selfie
nice.
in Irvine's hat. I think she actually looked really good
Yes.
in it.
Yeah,
she's got like hat hair anyway, so it really worked on it.
Yeah, that detail of like Renoa like finding Squall in the barrenness, and then like they like kind of connect, and then everything like kind of explodes into color. Like it's like kind of reminding me of what Laguna was talking about before, with like that whole like power of friendship speech, where it's just like our connections are what like root us in time, essentially. And like thinking about like the orphanage as the place where they were all connected, like time and space like kind of coming together through connection, which is something that Squall could have never achieved if he like remained as like closed up to connection as he was at the beginning of the game.
I do like that it wasn't a perfect transition. Like he did have trouble coming back. He was not able to actually make it back on his own still. But
yeah, he needed Renoa's
find
help.
a way. Yeah.
And no matter what I forgot from the rest of the game, that was a moment. It was kind of a defining moment for me for my game playing history and going forward for the next 10, 20 years. Nothing quite, nothing like that had entered my world before, that's for sure. And it really changed me, I think. And
sorry, what part is that
marked
exactly?
me forever. Oh, sorry, just the entire end sequence in Renoa finding Squall. Yeah, really stunning.
The visuals it does that like where it just kind of flashes through like, you know, flashes through the party, it flashes through Renoa. That one shot where it's like you see her just the space helmet gets broken, you know, and you can't see her, like,
because like that's another thing that could have happened.
Yeah.
It actually did happen to me once in that stupid mini game where you have to like catch her because she spawned at the top right of the screen and kept like going more far, and I'm like, I actually can't do this. It sucked.
The OHKO's cutscene moments in this, I actually got the prison one. I failed that like 3 times. I don't know why. I was just and like there's no easy system to go back. They just make you load it again. I was like, no. I did not like that. Yeah, I think nowadays they'd just be like, "Do you want to try again?" I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
I hate that
Like,
prison too. That stupid prison. That stupid sewer.
Yeah, I actually didn't talk about how the prison is easily the worst bit of the
It's
game.
I had that
bad.
noted
Hate
too.
it.
It's the worst
Yeah.
dungeon.
Bad.
Yeah.
And then they got like the cooler ones later. Or, like, I don't know. The
Well, it's
structure of this
followed by
game
the
just kinda
missile
changes
base, which
later.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, hilarious.
It's cool.
But
I like any
anyway,
segment where you got to dress up as villains. I always think that's fun.
yeah.
Dress up in gear.
But Ben, you've been a little quiet. Did the ending where you just like, yeah, whatever at that point?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think that like it's like I think they wanted to expand like the scope of the narrative and like the stakes, right? With this like whole time compression thing and like bringing in like I don't know, I guess elements of like time travel or whatever. I think that it makes sense in like the broader thematic kind of setup of like these characters are kind of locked into this duty that they have to perform and their whole lives have been kind of set up for this purpose, and that them finally like realizing that and then allows them to like break free of it, and so that's kind of fitting, and I think that the ending sequence kind of showcases that. But yeah, I mean, I was already kind of really checked out of the narrative by this point. So it's like, whatever. Okay, now it's Ultimecia and there's the, we're going to do this and like, whatever. Sure, why not? Because
Sure, why
I
not,
wasn't,
indeed.
yeah, I just wasn't super bought into like the world building and everything and the lore. I think that would make it compelling the way
Short
like
runtime
Steph
for
is.
so much
but
lore, and I definitely don't think they fit it
yeah,
all in.
yeah, it's just kind of all crammed in at the end, and I think this game doesn't. And maybe this is intentional, but it doesn't really signpost or like give hints of any of this stuff, throughout the
That I didn't
journey.
like either. Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
really well telegraphed because they
right.
do
Yeah,
focus a lot on just the characters themselves and just kind of having fun, which I appreciate in its own right. But it is hard to buy into some of the plot when it's just kind of
it
chucked
just
at
kind of
you.
comes out of nowhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, it does kind of fit the trend of like, oh, it's just these big set piece after big set piece, and like, you're just kind of like basking in the spectacle of it all, right? And so that it does kind of reinforce that as well. But I don't know. There wasn't a lot for me to kind of get my hooks into as far as like the narrative goes, except for really the Renoa and Squall relationship. So was happy to see that kind of resolve happily, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'll return to this game ever. So, but I am glad
I'm
that
holding out that
experienced
one day you will. Just I don't know, it'll sit on your brain in a weird way, and the witch will possess you to play it again.
FF8 does that, yeah.
Yeah,
but
I certainly was. I didn't want to come on the podcast immediately at first either. I was just like, I don't know, this one's weird. I'm like, no, okay, I love it now. Okay, we're not gonna talk about Squall is dead theory because that one's stupid. I do appreciate trying to explain why Squall lived after getting 3 icicles in his torso, because those were big icicles. But it doesn't matter, no. Anyway, so the fun one though I think is the Renoa is Ultimecia theory. And I think it's kind of fun because one of the directors or one of the writers, they did one of those things when they did FF8 Remastered, and he once disregarded the theory, but apparently one of the 3 writers of the game said, oh, I kind of had that in mind when I was writing it. And I think it's interesting that, yeah, it had multiple writers tackling the script who might have had different angles to kind of take on with it, which I think is actually kind of interesting. So they actually kind of humored the whole Renoa is Ultimecia theory and said it's not there, like said it wasn't my intent, but it definitely seems to have been some of the intent, which I think is cool because the whole visual opposite of them two is cool, where it's like she's got white hair and a red dress and black wings, and Renoa's black hair, white wings, and a blue dress.
For sure, yeah.
Well, I could see how the game not being very clear, and vague, and a lot of the
to give her an
things,
origin story.
Yeah, tying the plot beats together could allow for a lot of like alternative interpretation of the events and like what's undergirding a lot of the events that are going on. So it doesn't surprise me that there's like a lot of these kind of fan theories, because the game doesn't really answer a lot of those questions. And so
I went on the wiki just to see like, okay, so what's Ultimisia's story? It just kind of starts describing the events of the game. I was like, okay, so she doesn't really have an origin proper, just it kind of is as it is.
Yeah, there's a lot of empty space for the player to fill in the blanks, I guess, in this game is what I would say. And so some people are really attached to that, right? And they really like to come up with like different theories about why X thing happened and whatever.
I think it's a cool interpretation of like, what if like the magic and the time space, messing around like got to you after all these many millennia, and to twist someone so nice as Renoa into this twisted version of herself in some awful paradoxical manner would be interesting. But yeah, it doesn't really get supported totally either.
No, it does show like, I mean, you guys are both like showing like kind of the two sides of this game, right? Like I think there are a lot of clear flaws we could point out with its storytelling choices and things like that. But then there's like the vibes that this game manages and like the open-endedness that like its plot holes kind of like invite interpretation into. That's what has allowed like a lot of people to connect with this game and like make it like their favorite Final Fantasy potentially. It's really just like how much are you willing to buy into the vibes and like immerse yourself into the experience that this game does offer, even if it's like a very flawed one. Like if you really put a critical eye to it.
Explain too much and you take the magic out of it.
Which a lot of video games do too often. So I do appreciate that this one does have like all that room for interpretation. It's nice.
And technically some people are doing that with Rebirth. They're saying like what are you doing with all this? Like you're almost kind of like putting too much stock into some of this stuff.
So it's possibly about expectations, isn't it? Like if you expect the game to care about things that it doesn't, like Ultimisia and her ultimate origins, then you are going to be disappointed, as you say, whereas the focus is somewhere else up to the end.
But I think that's a good point to end off. Thanks everyone for this really engaging discussion. Thank you listeners for coming along with us on this trippy ride that I think accurately emulated FF8 in an appropriate way.
The highs and the lows, the two sides of the coin, as you said. And the shuffle and the boogie.
Booyaka. Okay, so just to look forward a bit now and what's coming up on Retro Encounter, in 2 weeks, we are going to have a top 10 episode for 7th generation RPGs. So that is RPGs released on the PS3, Wii, or Xbox 360. And that will be hosted by Michael Solosi, but Ben and I will also be there. Coming after that, or should I say next up, is 2 episodes on Xanadu Next, which will be hosted by Ben. Excited for that one, Ben?
I am so excited. Yes, and we probably need to start getting started on that.
Probably.
Playing that one on. Is it Windows, I guess?
It's on, just on PC. Yeah, and it's not a very long game, so
that's good.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm so thrilled that like they're actually going back to Xanadu. The Falcom is like kind of hitting up their old library.
Yeah, Kyoto Xanadu looks really really cool. It's bringing back some stuff from like the original Xanadu on like really old PC, Japanese PCs. So
old Falcom is such an interesting beast of its own, honestly.
Yeah. Like, well, if you're curious about old Falcom, then definitely listen to those episodes because it'll be cool.
For sure. And then after that, we'll actually be doing another tier list episode, this time on the Legend of Zelda series. So that will definitely have some takes.
Are you still accepting people on that one?
Oh yeah, we got one more spot.
Yeah. See you there.
Awesome. We got a full panel. So if you have any questions or comments, you can email us at retro@rpgfan.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Twitter, Blue Sky, Twitch, and YouTube as RPG Fan or RPG Fan.com. And you can also join the RPG Fan Discord. RPG Fan Shop is available, hosted by T Public with some merch. We also have 2 other podcasts, Random Encounter, which does kind of newer releases and follows industry trends, while Rhythm Encounter looks at video game and RPG music in particular. You can write us a review on Apple Podcasts, Overcast, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you listen to us. We would love your feedback. And where can you find us individually on social media? We'll start with you, Rob.
I am on Blue Sky, Neon Cowboy.
How about you, Steph?
I'm a bunch of places, Dice SMS. Yeah, find me there. I've even done FF8 artwork in the past, actually.
Ooh, if you got inspired by this episode and were looking for an FF8 commission, Steph is your person. How about you, Paul?
Beautiful game, yeah.
Yeah, I'm Blue Sky, Paul Skevington, and I'm on the Discord as well as Lord Spiral.
And you, Ben?
Yeah, you can email me at benloganlove@gmail.com.
As for me, you can email me at alexfraniczek@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening, everybody. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your days or evenings or whenever you're listening to this. Good night and good luck.